Hey guys, it's Adam from Lucid Pixel and welcome back. Now I want to do things differently this week. Normally I share my own thoughts and my own feelings on topics that my students bring up sometimes or facets of my own career or my own experiences that I find can be very helpful and share my thoughts on those. But today I actually want to share my thoughts and feelings on somebody else's video. And of course, if you know how to read titles, I'm talking about Brad Colbow's recent video where he talks about how he feels he sucks at art. And I'm not the only person who felt very moved and very impacted by this video, because I know that Borodante also did a video on this as well, his thoughts on Brad's video. So I'm going to link both Brad's and Borodante's video in the comments, in the description below, so you can go and check them out for yourself, because there's a lot of amazingly good feedback and wisdom that you can derive from that. So definitely go and check those out as well. I want to throw my thoughts onto this pyre because as a fellow artist, as a fellow YouTuber like Brad, I feel it's not only my desire, but it's also my obligation to share my feelings on this. Namely because it takes a very humble, brave, and very selfless type of person, a very leader type of personality, to be able to be the first to show vulnerability to everybody publicly. That's not easy to do. How many people can you say can go out publicly, and somebody who's developed quite a reputation for himself, and somebody who has quite a following online, and say, I legitimately feel like I'm a bit of a fraud? That takes a lot of courage to do that. And being an artist and being an educator myself, feel I can speak directly to Brad and to the rest of you and share my own thoughts and feelings on this. So the first thing that I think, just to get this out of the way, I want to mention or comment on the comments that Brad received from a lot of his viewers, or not a lot of them, but more than one, as he describes, and the delivery and the intention behind those comments. Because anybody who produces stuff publicly, myself included, although I will add that I have a great community that are very supportive, as I'm sure Brad feels 99.9% of the time, you have to be able to filter good from bad. And although people who are making comments might desire, to a certain degree, helping, I think it's important, as somebody being at the receiving end of good or bad, positive or negative, constructive or non-constructive criticism, you have to be able to filter that through two things. One is your ego, and the second is what you truly believe, objectively believe, is the intention of the person making that comment. Because this is something that impacts all of us as YouTubers, as people who post on social media. We get a lot of good and bad, and being people who are biologically engineered to be sensitive to what other people think of us, we can say, ignore it. Deep down inside, we can't entirely ignore it, and it does impact us. I know that Russell Brand recently even put out a video, I think within the last few days, talking about that as well. And he has a lot of the same points to make about it. If somebody's intention is to be helpful, is to contribute to your growth, is to play an active role in the betterment of your channel and the forward-moving positive momentum of the industry that we live in, then you can quickly tell that that's the intention through the words that they use, through the kindness that they use to filter that information through, or the means in which that they deliver that information. If we pull ourselves into a professional environment, imagine working in a studio where you're actually dealing with people face to face. If you show up somebody or criticize, just criticize, not constructively offer constructive feedback, but criticize somebody's artwork in a studio, you will be quickly labeled as a douchebag, because it's not professional to say your art sucks. I've had bosses or colleagues that would say that about my art or other people's artwork as well. And they were bad people. They were mean people whose intention it was to make the person they were talking to feel bad. And that's exactly what they managed to do. They insulted the person and made them feel bad. Period. Did those people become better artists as a result? No, they went home sad. They went home hurt or angry. They did not walk away feeling, I learned something today. So if you take that into the online world, if I'm looking at somebody's channel, somebody who produces weekly, high quality content, and it's my intention, if I'm looking at them from a professional artist perspective and say, that artist could really benefit from taking this guy's course, or could really benefit from learning this artistic principle, well, I'm not likely to do that on their YouTube comments. Unless I'm legitimately offended by something they did and I want to publicly share my displeasure. But if I just want to help that person out, I'll probably send them a Facebook invite or something like that, and I will get in contact them on Messenger and say, hey, have you ever checked out this person's course? Or, if you're looking to improve your artwork, here's somewhere where I really feel you particularly could benefit from it. And I get a big thanks from them in response. I didn't make it public. I wasn't showing them up publicly. I wasn't trying to be their tutor on a live forum. I'm offering some constructive feedback in a private, professional way. And that's generally how somebody with good intention will go about it. Sometimes people make the comment and say, you could work on your colors or values, or check out this artist's work. You could learn from that. Sometimes people will do it on YouTube comments, and that's cool. That's fine. But flat out saying, why would I listen to you? Your art sucks, is a douchebag move. That person only wanted that recipient of that comment to feel bad about what they do. They aren't putting any thought into the time and effort and energy and sacrifice that they put in for free. They're not getting paid to do it. Brad doesn't get paid to make art for you. He's volunteering that for you. And somebody just coming out and saying, your art sucks, why would I listen to you, is a dick. Not only are they a dick, but even if, hypothetically speaking, even if Brad's art did suck, which it doesn't, not by a long shot, you're not helping anybody. You're just being a dick. So I think from one YouTuber to another, from one brother to another, to all of those people who comment on Brad's or any other artist's work and just insult their artwork and say it's bad, period. So the next thing is, what follows up that is Brad's own interpretation of his artistic process. And this is for you, Brad, if you're listening directly. You commented, one of the things you confessed to, in quotes, is the fact that what you're presenting live, what Brad would present live on his channel, is maybe 30, 45 minutes of the painting process. But what you don't know, the dirty little secret you don't know about, is that Brad actually sketched it out and did some practice sketches and worked tirelessly for hours to do several rough drafts before he finally settled on that final version of the painting. And if you only knew that he couldn't pull it off in one shot, what a fraud, right? So to Brad, from one professional artist to another, that's actually exactly how it's supposed to happen. I'll share a little fun fact for any of you viewers listening, and to Brad in particular. One of the most famous public artists we know is, of course, Bob Ross, right? And it's a known fact that Bob Ross the paintings that he would do live on TV every week were usually the second to third, sometimes even fourth draft of that painting. And if you look at the way Bob Ross would angle his camera, He was kind of at a 45-degree angle towards, he would have his back to the camera, but at a roughly 45-degree angle. So you could look at what he was painting and see his hand as he would paint something. The first reason he would do it is so that you could look at his canvas. The second reason why he was doing that is because he was, when he would be painting, he would be actually looking off camera, outside of the frame of the camera, where he would have a second canvas set up with the first draft of his painting. So the paintings you'd actually see him doing live were a copy of what he was, of his original draft. Almost all artists out there, unless you're just doing some quick, loose concept, if you're doing something as precise as cartooning, because cartooning is by its very nature a precision craft, you need to do several rough drafts. And seeing and exposing those rough drafts of your work is not something you should be hiding. It's something you should be showing off. Artists need to see that you aren't a robot. Artists need to see that that your process is very organic. For my paintings, it happens I'd say at least 50 to 60% of my paintings, I very often have to go over significantly or start over from scratch, because I had an idea in my head and I tried it out and I fleshed it out as best as I could. But when it started to get into the painting process, I realized I could have done it better. So I start over. Sometimes that requires dramatic changes in my artwork, or it requires me to completely start over from scratch, because I feel that if I start over again, I have a clearer vision on what I wanted and I can execute it better the second time. And I used to hide that. Just like you, I used to be afraid for people to see my dirty laundry, quote unquote. Now I show it off because artists really appreciate to see that I tried something and I went, no. If you look at my painting processes, and a lot of my paintings, you'll see I concept different ideas, I'll paint it out, I'll spend an hour on something, and then I go, nope, delete. And I completely start over from scratch. As a painter, the process of painting is more of a sculptorly process, whereas if something doesn't work, I paint over it, I smear more paint on top of it, I mold and manipulate my forms the same way I would clay, just playing with forms and values to push and pull. But in cartooning, it's far more precise. You have a single line that needs to establish a lot of three-dimensional form. As such, slight imperfections and discrepancies in that line can distort a shape significantly. And this is something that classical animators, when you actually animate, that really shows up, where it might look okay, but as soon as you do something in a sequence and you hit that play button, the face just completely distorts. I'm sure any classical animators or cartoonists can attest to that when you hit the play button, things go all out of whack and you have to go over and over and over things to refine it. That's all part of the process. So to Brad, do you need to improve your artwork? Of course. The same way every other artist does. The same way Borodante and Bobby Chu and Tyler Edlin and Chris Oatley and Anthony Jones and Proco and myself, everybody included, we all need to improve. And all of us are at different phases and points in our learning process. Furthermore, not every entry point into our artwork is at the same point. Some people start at point A, some people start at point G, some people start at point V. We get good at certain things, but other things we put off till later. And eventually we develop the desire to learn that principle, depending on the type of artwork that we produce, depending on our particular desires. We can get really good at one thing, but not be very good at something else. So we tend to learn to manipulate and exploit our strengths and work around our weaknesses. Sometimes we overcome our weaknesses and they become our strengths, and sometimes we just learn to navigate around it because it isn't important enough for us to overcome them. That's for the same reason being a teacher, I have students who are far more capable of certain things than I am, and I openly express to them that I would love you to teach me that one day, how you do that. I have students that are far more competent at certain facets of artwork, although I've been doing it for over 20 years and they've only been doing it for a few. because they came in at a different angle and have strengths that I don't possess. That is absolutely normal. And to think that we can be the master of everything as an artist, we mastered everything, is a falsehood. It's a misconception. And it's also a little bit of ego, right? I've been doing this for longer than you, so I should be by default better at everything. That's, of course, bull. So, Brad, you are a very competent artist. And I'm not saying this to make you look good in public because I'm, just showing you blind support. No. Looking at your artwork, it's refined, it's polished, and it's professional. So don't let those trolls get under your skin. I let those trolls get under my skin every now and then too, until somebody comes out and shows me some support. So I'm sharing that back with you. Now the next is the YouTuber perspective on producing weekly content. And I actually had a very similar experience to Brad as well, but I came in from a different angle. I started off as an artist, and I didn't know squat about producing videos whatsoever. My video production sucked. I didn't know a lot about the technical side of it, cameras and audio and all that kind of stuff. And I was primarily the artist. I came into YouTube doing it precisely that way. So for me, getting into the tech side of YouTubing is something that came later on. And it was in learning about cameras, in learning about lighting, in learning about set design, in learning about audio editing and audio equipment and preamps and headphones and all that kind of stuff, that I all of a sudden started to be able to develop the professional ability to produce higher quality videos. And a lot of you, if you've been following my channel for a few years, you'll know exactly when that started to happen, come late 2017, early 2018. I learned about cameras. I started learning about sliders and B-roll and exposure and shooting in vlog and frame rates. And then I started to get into mics, and I hooked myself up with a bunch of different mics. I tried shotgun mics, and I tried my current dynamic mic. And then I needed a good preamp to go with that, so I started researching preamps. And then I learned about different lighting, and I started off with a fluorescent based light. But then I got into LEDs, and then I started to learn about what CRI meant. And then I got some more, some higher quality aperture lights. And then I learned how to diffuse it to create nice catch lights in the eye and create soft. It is a big process, and producing videos that way was a big endeavor. It's no simple feat. Producing weekly videos required me to completely convert my entire studio space into a film studio with monitors and wires set up all over the place and multiple microphones set up all over the place and lights all over the place and diffusers. You couldn't walk into my living room. It was completely blocked off. I would have to section off an entire day for production, and God forbid if something went wrong with the video, I would have to somehow manage to find another day to produce this video. And we're not even talking about editing or syncing the audio or editing the audio or editing the video or color correcting my video. It's a big production. One of the things that inspired me to learn about this was Brad's videos. And I would look at the production value, his audio and video, and I would look at it and I went, damn, how does he do that? How does he get that catch light in his eyes to look so good? Or how come his image looks so sharp? How does he get that angle? How does he get his audio to be so clean? You can listen to his audio with monitoring headphones, and it's clean audio. What kind of a mic does he use? So that was one of the things that actually started to intrigue me. I looked at a fellow art YouTuber, and I realized we can do better. Because most of us would shoot on an iPhone. Most of my YouTube videos were shot with some cheap, if you look at my earlier videos, it's shot with a gaming headset and with a webcam. And then I learned how to use my iPhone to shoot video, but then I got into lighting, and then it evolved from there. I look at Brad's videos. It is top quality stuff. You might look at his videos and you just see a guy nicely lit with a nice sharp image, and he's sharing his thoughts on something. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I know what goes on behind the scenes, and I know how much of his time, his money, his energy, the editing, the programs he uses to be able to pull off something of that high caliber. This is a strength, and I rely on him. I have learned to rely on him for every art tech purchase I have made. Brad came in, of course, everybody comes in with cheaper equipment at the beginning, right? But Brad came into the YouTube scene, as he describes, from a tech perspective, and the art was secondary to the tech. I came in as an art YouTuber where tech came in. I was the secondary facet. The thing that came in later in my production was the technical side of things. We just came in from different angles and had different focuses at the beginning, but we met somewhere in the middle. So again, the fact that you are producing, the fact that you put more emphasis on the art, and that your tech focus at the beginning transition more into the artistic side later on, is again a completely natural process. We need something to be the catalyst for something else. To me, producing art videos turned me on to the idea of increasing my technical production quality, where you started off with the technical production quality and transitioned, and that encouraged you to strengthen your artistic production. And now you're focusing more on doing actual drawing paintings. I kind of discovered the same thing, but I started one step behind you. You went from tech to art. I went from art to tech, back to art. And if you look at my 2019 videos forward, starting with my first video, the Pyromancer video, you'll notice I've been doing mostly, as I am doing right now, a painting process video again. I decided I wanted to get back into just recording my screen. So again, Brad, thank you. Thank you for your amazing sacrifice, for the weekly content, for the incredible effort you put into your production value. Everything about your productions is a testament to how many people love you and follow you on your art channel. So be aware of the fact that, again, you have and continue to be a pioneer in the artistic industry on YouTube, and I have nothing but my gratitude for that, from one YouTuber to another. Now, the last thing I want to tap on today is artistic education, because Brad is now looking for, as many of you are, as most of you out there are looking for, is an education. And Brad asked a very important question that I have a very strong opinion on. I have vocalized this opinion, and I have some very sound advice to anybody who's in Brad's position looking to improve their artistic education. I'm actually looking to improve my artistic education as well right now, looking towards different educators and stuff like that online. Should you or should you not go to art school? And one of the arguments that Brad made, which is a response to a lot of the videos that artists like myself have made, is a lot of the people that advise other artists online to not go to art school have gone to art school. And I'm guilty of that. I tell people very often, I advise people to consider art school, at least the brick and mortar traditional school. Of course, this depends on where you live. I discourage people from that and offer that as a last option. But I have a degree in classical animation and fine arts. But here's the thing, and here's my opinion. And I can further reinforce this opinion with my 17-year-old daughter, who's now studying illustration in college. Unfortunately, the educational system, the brick and mortar educational system, colleges, universities, they can at least offer a lot of amazing value to students. And I think one of the most important qualities that a traditional school offers students that an online school can't is, and I consider this very important, physical person-to-person interaction, live personal interaction, where you're actually looking at people who are physically in front of you and you're interacting with people that are physically in front of you. This is something that is hugely important for human health and growth I think it's an incredibly important facet of living a positive life, is actually learning and being able to be around other people physically in front of you. So that's something that we need to solve or work towards solving moving forward as far as this online world of education is concerned, my own mentorship included. However, there are many cons, there are many negative facets of traditional education, and a lot of that has to do with where you're from. As far as I know, Brad Colbow is from the States. I haven't double checked, but I'm pretty sure he's from the States. You can let me know in the comments below. The cost of artistic education in the US is astronomically, horribly, ridiculously high. And it is unacceptably exploiting students that are not promised any employment. They're not promised a great salary, even if they do find a job. They're basically saying, if you want to have a future, you have to put yourself in decades of debt. I've spoken about this at length on my channel. You can check out the video. The tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that students have to put themselves in for no promise of a return is, to me, a joke, and it's unacceptable. Now, in Canada, that's a different story, or in different countries where school is entirely or greatly subsidized. That's a different story. And that attests to how few actual Canadian students I have. I have an abundance of American students. And one of the main reasons why is because they can afford to take a class online with Anthony Jones or with Chris Oatley or with Noah Bradley or with Tyler Edlin or with myself, because all of those courses altogether don't even come close to scratching the surface of the cost of a traditional school in the US in the arts or animation. So therein lies one major factor. The second is, if you're going to be spending even a few $1,000s, let alone tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you should, by default, expectedly be able to handpick your educator, which you can't. You walk into a school, you get the teacher that you get, and if your teacher sucks or has a bad day or isn't completely qualified to teach the course, which, by the way, is very common. Teachers are very often given classes because the laws say if you're a teacher at a school, that teacher gets the teaching position before somebody else, even if they are less qualified. Yes, this is a fact. I know this from experience. Then you're getting a teacher who might know less about a subject than you. And that, dear ladies and gentlemen, is a complete effing ripoff. There are too many factors. Oh, yes, and another one. Filler curriculum. My daughter is a testament to this. She's studying illustration, and she has a very, very solid style and focus on where she wants to take her career. She knows what she wants to do. She knows exactly what she needs to be able to she knows what she needs to know and what she needs to get at in order to pursue the very specific career that she wants to pursue. But her course, she's got some good courses, and there are classes that she likes, but it's a bit of a trade. You know, it's a hit or miss kind of thing. A large percentage, I would say, I'll have to ask her directly, but I'd say maybe 30 to 50% of the curriculum that is consuming a ton of time and energy. It is very intensive, is absolutely irrelevant to what she's going to need in her career. It's a bunch of traditional, old school, archaic illustration principles that are completely pointless. They're not contributing. I know from a professional perspective, she's completely and utterly wasting her time. But now that she's got her midterms that she's got to submit, she's being slammed, or her finals at least, she's being slammed with so much work. I see her and she's going into a freaking depression. She's so tired all the time. She's so burnt out. And when she wants a break from her work, from her curriculum, She draws the things that actually matter to her, the things that actually stimulate her artistically. She should be doing that in class. Hell, this is her future. This is her career. But instead, she's got to do this technical drawing crap that is completely pointless. And I mean pointless. I'm not saying the technical stuff that everybody needs to learn. No, I'm talking about bullshit. And that stuff is consuming 70% of the time, and they're slamming her with these projects that are taking her hours and hours, and she's doing these all-nighters, and she's got dark rings around her eyes, and she's getting sad and depressed and overworked and exhausted, and she can't sleep in when she needs to, and it's affecting the way she's eating, and she's rushing in and out of class all the time. It's almost as if school systems are trying to condition you to be an industrial factory worker. Get used to back-breaking hours, because that's the real world, hun. Get used to it. And to that I say, screw you. To that I say, why am I paying you to burn me out? Why am I paying you to waste my time and burn me out? Now, if you've got rich mommy and daddy, or you just happen to win the lottery, or you just got money to blow and you don't know what to do with it, and you've got a lot of time to waste, then go for it. If to you the social aspect of education is more important than the actual content of the course itself and the curriculum itself, then go for it. But otherwise, don't. Period. Don't do it. Why? Unless the educational system buckles under the pressure of online schools that offer far better quality, far more specific and far more career-focused curriculum for one micro fraction of the cost, then don't. Period. Unless you live in a country like Canada, where your curriculum, where your tuition is all together with books and school fees and transportation less than $1,000 a year, then don't. But when should you try to do it on your own? As Brad, he's another question he had. When should you try to do it on your own, and when should you pursue help? Well, I'll give you a little piece of advice. Pursue it on your own as far as you can. One of the things that you're going to run into, what you might run into trying to self-educate, which I'm a big advocate for. I love self-educating. I learned how to do my own websites, and I learned how to do minor programming, and I learned how to draw, and I learned a bunch of different stuff. I learned 3D on my own. I never went to school for 3D, and I got a job in 3D. I ended up being a director for the 3D department. So you can do it. But depending on the type of career you're trying to pursue, or depending on what particular facet of art, or depending on the certain obstacles you're facing, a lot of that stuff you can figure it out on your own. And one of the things that can help you kind of bypass the cost of education, of having to pay for the education, is consulting with friends who are professionals and asking them, what should I study? What should I focus on? And where can I get where can I find those resources online for cheap or for free? And that can take you quite a good distance. But you're going to find at a certain point, you hit this wall, you hit this obstacle that feels too hard to surpass. You feel a little bit lost, and you've spent months or maybe even years starting to get a little bit discouraged. You're feeling like you just can't figure out the solution, and you just can't find those resources online on your own to overcome that certain obstacle. When it comes to that, and you feel that desire to push yourself to a more polished professional level, because you're aiming higher, then at that point, invest a little bit of money into a hand-picked mentorship or online course that specializes in solving that specific problem. In my opinion, an education should be the obstacle should come before the solution. And the problem with a brick and mortar school is they'll just throw a bunch of obstacles at you, or they'll throw a bunch of solutions at you, but you didn't really have a particular desire or need to overcome that obstacle. That's like somebody walking up to you and saying, here, I'll teach you how to hold drumsticks properly. And you're like, but I don't give a shit about how to hold drumsticks because I'm trying to figure out how to paint. Yeah, but here, just take these drumsticks and we're going to practice doing paradiddles for the next 6 months. But why? I don't care. It doesn't apply to what I'm doing. Just do it. It's a bit of an exaggeration on what the educational system is trying to do. It's trying to solve every problem before, if and or you may even fall into that category of person who needs that help. So you want to create and to approach and get frustrated with specific artistic obstacles first. So then you can turn and say, if I'm in animation, I'm going to go check out Steven Silver's course on schoolism, because he specializes, he knows how to solve that character design obstacle. He knows how to take what I already do and make it look more dynamic and fun. That's what Steven Silver's strength is. You look at Steven Silver's work, and from an animator's perspective, I'm a cartoonist, I look at his work and he has a magic gift of being able to make things look fun, of making an animated character exciting, of making it shine, giving it that little something that makes it just so much more polished than everybody else's stuff. And that's why he gets those jobs, because he has that gift, and his course will teach you how to do that. Or looking at Bobby Chu's stuff and how he renders so beautifully, or how he creates these beautiful character designs, or how he applies these delicate textures to everything that he does. He teaches all that stuff. Or how Anthony Jones knows how to create these designs, how to work with graphic shapes, and to apply design principles to things just to make them just so freaking awesome. Ask Anthony. He'll teach you. This is what he does. And he's not going to charge you $100,000 a year to do it, right? So that's how you do that. But I'm not going to take a course with Steven Silver if I want to learn how to paint realistic Game of Thrones style art for Fantasy Flight, because that's not what Steven Silver does. Nor am I going to turn to Bobby Chu if I want to learn how to do dark fantasy. I'm going to turn to Bobby Chu if I want to do something a little bit more lighthearted and fundamental, right? So handpick your education, create the obstacle first. And you've been creating very definitive obstacles for yourself. I've been watching you on your channel, Brad, going back to speaking directly to Brad. You've created a lot of obstacles. Now you need to go out and seek out the specific teachers, if necessary, that can help you overcome it. But only do so if you feel like you're completely at a loss on how to do it on your own. That's when you reach out for it. And to anybody else listening, that's how you do it as well. Don't just think you can pile on an education and get better at art. No, you need to create the obstacle and the desire to learn it first. And that will make you a committed, passionate, and focused student. All right? So once again, to you, Brad Colbow, thank you for your courage, for your humility, and for your honesty. And thank you for being the voice of the community, the artistic community. And I think you did a great service to everybody, as I'm sure Borodante and everybody else, every other YouTuber who heard that video felt. And you might have done it in a moment of frustration or self-doubt, but rest assured that you voiced the frustration and self-doubt that I and every other YouTuber out there feel weekly, regularly. And to everybody else that's listening, show him some love. Go subscribe to his channel. And happy painting. I love you all. Take care.